Hello everyone and welcome to our Ready to Lead summer term. I'm Jonathan Coy from Head Teacher Chat and I'm delighted you are here today. And just to start off, I'm going to talk about the Ofsted Framework first for the first hour, and then I'm going to do the white paper for the second hour. There's going to be a bit of break in the middle, so you can go and get a cup of tea, so it's not 2 hours long. You can have the recording will be sent out to you as well, so you can watch it at your leisure at the same time. And the PowerPoints that I've done for this, you can then download and use in your own school, because what we're trying to do is actually help you and support you in your school, so you have all this information to share with your staff or your SLT or your governors, and actually share them the updates of what's going on. So this is basically what this is set up to do. So I'm going to start off with going through the Ofsted framework. I'll give you a little bit of background information of where this information comes. First of all, it is not anything from Ofsted in the sense of there's not an official document or anything from that. It's basically myself going through all the Ofsted reports for the new framework and actually doing a scan of what's happening and an analysis of where Ofsted inspectors are picking up things, or the next steps, or is there a key to all the exceptional schools, what they are doing, and all the needs improvement schools, or what they need to improve on. So it's basically myself going through all the Ofsted reports and analysing them for improvements. So, and to start off with, to start off with, if you have any questions about this, then please please let us know in the chat. Lucy's in the background doing all the chats of everything. So I just seem to have lost my screen for a moment, so I'm just going to sort that out. Always the case on these sort of things, isn't it?
Everyone, I'll just come on and let you know that I am here, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have during the event. So if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat. We love to hear from you, where you are from and your name. We love to say hello. It helps us to think that we're not talking to ourselves. And I'm just going to help everybody get in, if you're okay, Jonathan.
That's fine. That's good. Yep. So I'm okay. So I'm going to get started. There's sort of like technical error that we were having then. So let's do sort of like a summary of what's happened so far. So I've taken all the Ofsted reports from up until last week. So there's been another batch that's come along this week. I'm analysing at the moment. I'm going to talk about a little bit within this presentation, but majority of what I'm talking about is from the 354 reports that have come from the trialling Ofsted reports, and up until recently, all the ones that have been done since Christmas. From that, there are going to be sort of like 283 from primary schools and 67 from the secondary schools. So there's going to be a real mixture of talking about secondary and primary, but there's a lot of common themes in it. There's sort of like what I'm saying today is sort of like the general thing of what's happening with the Ofsted framework. If you're keeping up with all the news of what's going on, you get a general gist of what's going on and how we can actually improve our schools to making it better, be focused on what they are looking at to help us to improve our schools. I mean, the general drift of what's going on, I'm going to go through the executive summary now, and this gives you the summary of where everything is. Let's be honest, it's sort of like there's a lot of things in the press and the social media at the moment about the achievements and the curriculum and teaching. They are the big ones that people are not getting to the expected standard. I'm going to break down what Ofsted inspectors are saying about it and what they're using as the next step. In primary, They really are focusing on the writing accuracy and actually the diagnostics of actually, do you understand where the children are and have you a clear understanding of what their next steps are? So really, this is going to be a big focus on that. So I know that some people are sort of like struggling to get into here. So I'm going to, hopefully Lucy's sorting those out as well. The secondary issue is there's, it's the achievement is actually, there's a bit of an impact bridge that needs to be created through improving some of the children through transition, and sort of like, especially at the end of Key Stage 2, Key Stage 3, the transition comes up a lot. How do you make sure that's smooth? And this is one of the issues that comes into the white paper as well. So the priority actions, actually making sure that you have a clear bridge for the ones that are not achieving and progressing well in the school, and actually understand where they're coming from. The audit, the diagnostics grip within the primary school, especially in the primary school, especially in writing, actually, do you know what their misconceptions are? How are you dealing with it? Have you got a clear plan for it? And then just test the inclusion. Is the inclusion in the classroom? You might have all the paperwork to say that you're doing everything for inclusion. You might have all the systems and things, but actually what they're looking for is inclusion in the classroom. How is the classroom teaching being adapted to it? So there's one common thing that sort of like creeps up a little bit, is about monitoring calendars and work scrutiny. What they're saying is it's great to have all those sort of things, but what you need is what has changed from those things, and actually what's improved from those things. So if you have a monitoring calendar, are you using it? Are you monitoring? Are you stepping those in impact from what you're doing? Are you doing work scrutinies? Do you actually notice the improvements within the classroom from doing it? So it's what changed because of the actions, and that's basically what I'm going to be talking through today. Please, if there's any questions or anything from this, then just put it into the chat. So it's just a general update to what the things are and the sort of language I'm using within this one. So we know the sort of like the grade descriptors. You've got the urgent improvement, you've got the needs attention, you've got the expected level, the strong standard, and then you've got the exceptional. So in this PowerPoint, I'm going to be using UI as the urgent improvement, NA as the needs attention, SS as the strong standards, all the way through this. So, and then you've got the domains that you're going to be working through. So you've got the achievement, you've got the curriculum and teaching, you've got the attendance, behaviour, leadership, inclusion, personal development, early years, sixth form, etc. So you've got those. Quite a lot of what I'm focusing on will be the UI and the NA part of this, because those are the bits that some schools are getting tripped up on some things, and we're just going to clarify some of those language, and then we'll be looking at what does a strong standard look like. Actually, what is this in schools? What are the things that picked up on the Ofsted reports? So moving on to the things. As I say, if you do have any questions, and do let's see, I'm just going to check. Right. So I talked about this a little bit already, and this is a very key concept that's coming up in the Ofsted reports. So this is a scan through it. Actually, there's a lot of activity evidence and clarify that you're doing something within the school. But what the inspectors are looking for is the impact evidence. And there's that clear distinction between the two of them. You can do a lot of activities, but if it's not making an impact, then actually there's not much point of it. So as I said before, you've got monitoring calendars. Okay, it's great having a monitoring calendar, but so what? Okay, assessment data. It's great having all these assessment data, but what are you using it for? Again, with the SEND plan, I talked about this before, is sort of like the SEND plan is important to have all the SENDs and pastoral and all those aspects of school. But actually what you need is the impact evidence to saying, okay, you spotted this, what has changed because of this? This is the impact of what it is. So what inspected from the reports I'm noticing is actually you can name the misconception, you can what had changed in the teaching because of that. So you can do the diagnostics, you can do before, after work sample, you can do classroom level proof that adaptive teaching is taking place in the classroom. So if you're looking at that, it's sort of like changing the mindset. So they're not, as I said down here, is that inspectors are not grading busyness. This did happen here, but actually what changed because of it, and actually it's more driving on to the impact of what you're doing, how you're monitoring that impact, how you're showing that impact in the school. And then that is a much clearer evidence of what's going on, and then you can compile that and hand over to the inspection team when they're here. I hope that's clarified that bit and gives you some sort of like distinction between what the difference is. The inspection teams are looking for the impact of what's going on in your school. So make sure you can do that. So you've spotted this, what have you done about it? Here's the evidence within the classroom. So it's how does it affect the teaching? So I've gone through all the aspects of the inspection reports, and this is basically where the needs, attention and the urgent improvement are ranked in the domains of each of the one. The reason why I'm showing this is actually gives you a bit of a flavour of where we are with it. Now, let's point out straight away that when it comes to personal development, only 12 schools out of 283 have not got to the expected standard. So this is not one of the, it's been done well. Actually, the sort of the patterns are within schools. Actually, most schools are doing this. This is doing well. Inclusion, and it's under 10%. So again, the inclusion is working within school. In secondary school, it's only 3%. So the schools are doing the things for inclusion well. It's sort of like it's not coming up as an issue. And then you're going further up. Leadership and governance is 12% and 9% in secondary schools. So you can generally feel where the issues are where people are not achieving the expected standard. So it goes up to the achievement. The achievement is the one, is the focus of most of the conversations on social media, the press and everything. Achievement is an issue with any, there's 25% of schools that are not getting to the expected level. We're going to break down which ones, what they are and things like that. I just say that exceptional is very rare in this data set. So exceptional, hardly any schools have actually got to that. So it's very low frequency of it. So you've got the achievement part. Okay, I'm going to talk about the achievement bit. The next part in primary is actually the curriculum and teaching. So 20% of schools are not getting up to that standard. And then you've got the attendance and behaviour. Most of the attendance is down to attendance and spotting the trends and not actually putting the impact onto improving the trend. So that is the key issue with that. And then you've got the attendance in the secondary is the second one, just under 20%. Again, it's the attendance figures are not, the attendance figures of what are you doing about it, and actually are you making the impact of it. So that gives you a sort of like outline of it. It's sort of like the achievement is the big one for secondary and primary, to making sure that actually you are making the impact of what you're doing in school. So I talk about it a little bit further on. We do ask any questions throughout this. So like there's lots going on with it. So here are the most often triggers to the 3 bits that I really want to focus on. And it's, in some ways, it's sort of like quite obvious that there's sort of like the patterns that's coming up. But actually, it's actually what are we doing about it? It's sort of like the first one in the secondary is about the outcomes lag behind the curriculum renewal. So schools might be progressing and generally improving, but leaders can't show the bridge between a change and the measurable impact. So that might take time. In the secondary school, it does normally take a bit of time to do that. So it's basically saying that sort of like there's not enough interim evidence to reward the direction of travel. So it's basically that evidence of actually impact of what you're doing. How do you know this impact, and what do you know to the next stage of what you're doing? So it's that missing part of the journey of the evidence that you are providing. Say, okay, your curriculum is doing really well, but there's not enough evidence to making it impact on the outcomes of the children. The second deficit is really sort of like they're linked into the inclusion, into adaptive teaching, into the whole range. And they sort of like, I talk about this in the white paper later on. We can describe what the struggles are for the children, but we cannot absolutely identify what misconceptions are going on. So we've identified, okay, this did, and we haven't actually met the needs of those children. I'm trying to put it into sort of like a context. It's sort of like you identify, oh, they haven't got sort of like their phonics sounds in year 2. So actually, what do you do to catch them up or later on, or they're missing some sort of like the gap in it? And actually, it's that misconception that you've got to really diagnostically check early on, and actually then plan precisely the improvement. So it's not like they fit into an old intervention. They've got to have bespoke intervention for themselves to actually really close that gap in what they're doing. And actually, what they're finding is the schools that are in that needs attention and urgent improvement, they're not identifying the actual need, and then not actually doing something about that. So they might be doing some intervention, but that's not having the impact that it needs to be doing. So it's the lack of that diagnostic of actually what is the issue and how you're actually going to do that. And then the third deficit bit is the actual classroom translation gap. Okay, so you might have all the plans, the referral, pastoral support. Actually, what the inspector is actually looking for is the classroom level proof that the adaptation for change and had actually changed the pupils' work. So it's where the teaching and the assessment aren't precise enough. And in the inclusion, it is the thing that actually proves that this is not and it exposed that it is missing. So it might be a teaching and assessment issue, and it might be part of the curriculum and teaching part that actually the adaptations are not being precise enough for the teaching in the classroom to actually make the improvements for the children. I'm hoping this has all become clear and straightforward. If you do have any questions, do pop them into chat. We always think sort of, is this common? Is this what you're seeing on the ground in schools? Am I saying what you think is the Ofsted reports are coming? Do put it into chat and actually tell me, and sort of like goes, this is why research from what's going from all the Ofsted reports, and hopefully it's going to be some help for you and actually what you need to be doing to focus on what they're doing. The key message, and the key message all the way through this, is actually, what do you do? What is the impact of what you're doing? Can you show that impact? So have you got the impact of what's happening in that classroom? So you've put on the pastoral system. Does it make a difference in the classroom? And that generally, the gist of what the Ofsted reports are going to, ones who don't get that needs attention, actually the common evidence deficit is that they don't see the evidence for the impact in the classroom. It might not be that they don't see it or it's not there, it's just they haven't got the evidence for it. And you know what the time frame of these inspections are. There's not much time to collect all the evidence. Actually, you need to sort of like provide this evidence to them. So I'm going to talk about the primary aspect of this now. So it's the handover precision and the judgments of diagnostic judgment. It's basically the same things I've been talking about, actually. So what a common theme is: the writing precision, the transcription, the gaps in spelling, the gaps in grammar, handwriting are frequently cited within the reports. The published out, actually, it's the day-to-day, everyday writing. It's not the one just in the literacy lessons, it's the ones in the curriculum. So they're not writing with precision in their topic books, or they're not putting their capital letters or forming that. It's all those parts that are not doing well. And actually that's the translation into the cross-curricular writing for enjoyment, or the writing across the curriculum. So then have a look at it and find out what writing across the curriculum, is it embedded? Are people using it? Or have you got a clear non-negotiable focus on writing across the curriculum? Is every book that's been picked up on it? Actually do a half term on a focus on your writing of actually what it looked like, if this is one of the key areas you need to work on. Go back to that diagnostic assessment practice, okay, is not precise enough to learn, to find out the particular gaps in the learning of the children. And then you're sort of like, it's what the children know that doesn't routinely inform the planning, actually insecure recall across the subject. And actually the cumulative knowledge of building is inconsistent, and the phonics precision is variable in the school. So it's all those things, the non-negotiables within the classrooms, going through primaries. And actually it's quite a lot of this is in secondary as well. It's sort of like the basic things. Are they done well in your classroom? Are they actually really, are the gap being focused? So what this is talking about is actually, do you recognize the gaps? Are they being addressed? Are the writing, the basics all being addressed in all the classrooms? So those are the main things in the achievement and curriculum and teaching that have come up in reports that are what I wouldn't say the quick wins, but it can be really things that actually let's have a focus. You're in the Ofsted window, so let's have a focus on these things. Actually, make them precise. Make sure the improvements there. Make sure the actual things are in place for actually doing it. Monitor and actually make sure that the evidence is there to say, okay, we tackled this. This is the improvements of this. This is what has changed because of this. So I even put this in here to sort of like what has separated the expected from the strong term. Inconsistency in matching work to pupil stage, including mixed age classes. Check on the knowledge and not routinely informing the next steps. Phonics again, and weak diagnostics. So it's this general theme, the themes that are coming up all the time with what's happening in the inspection. So going on to secondary now. So is this a common thing? Is this what you're noticing from people who've had inspections? Is this what your neighbouring schools you've found out from their reports? Is this common? Is this what you're finding on the ground as actually in school? So the secondary one is more the historic data trap, that the lag behind what's going on in the curriculum, actually sort of like, are you rechecking? Are you really, I mean, this is where the achievement is vulnerable, sort of like you need that gap to actually bridge over what the evidence is of actually making measurable pupil progress. So you're rechecking what the evidence is on demonstrating that pupils had retained and applied the curriculum across the whole curriculum, work scrutiny, improving accuracy and independence. It's not just the task of what's going on. Going back to that diagnostic, if you diagnose the problem, so what? What have you done about it? Have you got that gap? Have you actually put an intervention in to improve that gap in their learning? And it all comes down to sort of like the disadvantage and the SEND progress. Are they sort of like in the strong standard exceptional schools? Actually, the SEND and the disadvantaged are making the same progress as other groups. They're showing that they're actually doing it. So that gets into that strong bit. So that's generally what is happening with the secondary. Is that common? Is this what is happening? Is this a fair reflection of where we are going with this? I hope so. I mean, this is basically what all the 67, it is a small sample of secondaries at the moment. So 67 schools is not many. So as we build up, this is the reoccurring theme at this moment. So the impact bridge model, I talked about it a few times. There was sort of like diagnose what the misconceptions are. Act on that. Targeted teaching, move and curriculum, teaching move and curriculum adjustments, lesson adaptation, CPD focus, SEN planned updates with relevant information of what's going on with that. So of what that diagnostic assessment is, recheck again, sort of gather the evidence of the actual improvement. If it's not working, change and find something else to do. And actually then you really got to show that improvement of what that child is doing. So you know that there is a misconception, you might do it in a group, you might do it individually, but you've got to show the improvement of the outcome and then be consistent with the time. So across how often do you check? How often do you sort of like work on it? It's sort of like if the intervention's not consistent in happening, or the adaptation not happening in the classroom consistently, actually then that child is less likely to improve, and then so it's not getting the right impact. So you've got to check that there is that consistency within the classroom, into the approach and what you agree to be doing, and then set that as the target for the teacher, the teaching assistant, the children within this classroom. So in some ways, it's sort of like the evidence set for this. You identify this misconception, have a work sample of dated of when that child started this intervention, name the misconception, be very particular, adapt one teaching aspect, recheck the evidence, and then do another sample to show the improvements of it. Within that, then you got the scope of showing that impact as actually it's what the child is doing anyway. So actually prove that from there and use that as your evidence base for adaptation. So you can tick box quite a few things in this in some ways of actually you're doing the adaptive teaching, you're doing the changing of the curriculum to meet the needs of the children, you're doing an assessment of diagnostics of actually missing conceptions. So you can provide quite a lot of what you're doing in the school. I mean, what we find is actually, as I said, going back to the needs, attention and urgent improvement schools, actually, there's not many of them that go into the inclusion. There are a few. We talked there's about 10% in primaries and about 3% in secondary. But it's a bit of a stress test because it does come through the curriculum and teaching and the achievements as well. So there is a strand within those ones. So it is a sort of like the stress test of the operational grip within the school. And actually, it's basically it's a direct test of adaptation of working in the lesson. So then the curriculum and the teaching is spot on for the children. So not necessarily to saying that all the systems are not in place. It's actually, does it affect the teaching in the classroom? So this is where the adaptive teaching, the whole aspect of this is quite important to actually you to focus on. So I keep on saying this is like, do we have early identification of what the children need in that the whole class, year group? Do we identify the barriers to learning and the difficulties before they come to entrenched in the system? So that inclusion bit we need to do really early on of what's going on. Do we get that specialist advice? Do we bring them in to talking about adaptive teaching in the CPD sessions? Is there visible evidence of recommendations or how to change your teaching practice? It might be the Senko in school, it might be how you're changing that practice in the classroom. And then the next bit of this inclusion is, do we check on that pupil progress? Do we check on the disadvantage in SEN progress in the day-to-day of what's going on in the classroom? It's not just a summative assessment, it's actually the day-to-day formative assessment that's going on within the classroom. So this is what I would recommend you do in school, is actually pick three children, one SEND, one disadvantaged, and then can you then show those barriers? Can you see where the adaptation's been made in the classroom? What has changed in the environment? What changed in the teaching? What has changed in their books that has shown the improvement? What has changed in the work? Is there improved accuracy? Is there improved independence of what's going on? Is there quality of explanation over time, not just presentation and quantity? It's actually the quality of the work that had that improved. And then trace that to the three children and see how they go through. And then you'll notice what gaps are missing, or what things you need to work on, and then sort of like how do you then fill the gaps in those things. It's not really this inclusion is not just a systems audit of what's going on. It's actually an in-lesson impact test to find out what's going on in the classroom, and actually use that information to improve the teaching and improve the adaptive teaching in the classroom. Because where the teaching and assessment is not precise enough, that's where it gets tripped up in the inspections, in the reports. I'm hoping this is helpful. I've spent a long time going through and analysing all these reports to really sort of like give you a flavour of what's going on. Remember that they're just the Ofsted reports. They're not really within the school. It's sort of like it's just a summary of what they found in those 2 days, and I've unpicked that summary to see if there's some common trends or things that we can act on to actually improve it. So the common themes that are coming up on the action plans and the action points and all the text that they are saying. So hopefully it's becoming useful. Now, the next bit I'm going to focus on is the strong leadership evidence. What does it look like? So leadership didn't come up, it's under 20% of schools. So it's not a big focus of the achievement and curriculum and attendance and behavior, but it all intertwined into the leadership. So the scans of the strong leadership narrative it's more about the operational grit that you have in the school. So are the systems precise enough to improve practice? Is the implementation of the systems that you put in place, are they consistent? So are you actually consistently monitoring and checking that they're all in place? And the evaluation of it, let's be honest, it has to be honest. You have to find, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. Actually be honest with what the evaluation is and find out in the classroom if this is actually happening in the classroom. Actually find out that information of what it is. Now, within this is so like you've got the well-being and the CPD aspect of workload of what's going on in the classroom. So we've got to really focus on that. Is there clear workload levers? Are the policy decisions made to, in some ways, not add to the workload of the teaching and the SLT members? I add those into it. With workload all round, there's a lot of workload, and actually we've got to work out how we reduce the workload for all staff. Are protected time and shared responsibilities, are they actually clearly in the operational system? If you're adding something, what have you taken away? And actually professional learning, has it reduced the burden on the class teacher and the SLT members? Does it reduce that burden, or does it add to it? How do you make sure that it doesn't add to it or add in one more thing? So those are the things that sort of like we have to be aware of in the leadership. How do we manage and balance this so we have strong leadership and governance? So this is basically the same things of what we're talking about. Okay, staff voice. Have we got a credible? Do we do a staff survey? What happened? What's the impact of the staff survey that you do? Have you got staff protection within place within the school? So you've got the sort of whistleblowing policies. Is it clear that what you do in it? All those systems that you need to do. So I'll put down here is one of the key things of what we need to do is a strongest inspection ready answer is we care about well-being, is what could be said in sort of like governors. And what you need to do, here are our levers, here's how we monitor it, and here is what changed because of the monitoring we've done. So it's again, what is the impact? You've got the data of saying this is what wellbeing is in school. Actually, what is the impact? What have you done because of it? Now, I've analysed all the leadership and governance reports, and this is the things that come up to weaker leadership and governance. First one, the governance challenge is too soft. They're not asking the right questions. They're not asking the questions which what we've been sort of talking about. So what changed because of this? You found out about this, and actually they're not being precise enough to what they're actually asking the school leaders in the schools. You might be saying is that activities, oh, we've got this monitoring timetable, but are they asking, so what? What has changed because of you having this monitoring time? What is that in? And then you've got all the well-being part of that one. So have you added to the workload because of the monitoring thing? So the challenge has been too soft, and this is on the weaker leadership and governance. That goes on to the second question. The monitoring exists, okay, with this, but it lacks the sharpness of what it needs to do. It's not precise enough to actually doing the improvement in the classroom. So it's those questions of actually, so what, again, training is present, but implementation is uneven. So you might have this brilliant trainer that comes in, does everything, but actually done no impact on the classroom. So it's that monitoring what is the impact in the classroom after you've done the training or the in-service training. And then the final one that sits behind the weaker leadership is that it's the right priorities, but the pace is just too slow. And actually, you've got to picking up the pace a bit to you've got the pupil premium, there's an oversight, but actually you're not really delivering the impact in the classroom quick enough. So the key governor takeaway is that supportive culture does not cancel weak evaluation. Under the new framework, boards must show the improvement work is accurately diagnosed, implemented consistently, and evaluated honestly. So that's generally where we are. So I've done some mock governor challenge here. So there's a couple of questions that you can use and use this for. I can imagine people using this in their governors meeting to actually get them to asking the right questions on what's going on in school. So please do. This is what this is designed. Just accredit his answer on it, then change it, sort of like say where the source is from. But please do use this in your governance if you need. I love this question. So like, what are the most significant workload reduction decisions made this year, and what is the evidence that it's making a difference? Within that, you've covered quite a lot of what's going on. So I'm hoping this is useful, and I'm hoping you're getting the right information on this. Please put in the chat if there's any questions or anything. Lucy's around to actually ask with those. The next part we're focusing on is the governance framework challenge. I'm going to whiz through this quickly because I'm aware of time, and I've got a couple more slides to go through on the Ofsted. If there is any questions, I stop in about 10 minutes and we can answer some questions of what you think of the report so far. So the governance challenge framework, this is the sort of questions you need to use in the room. It's sort of like, is the evidence accurate? Is it consistently implemented? What's the workload protection for the staff? What's going on with that? I think I covered those ones in there. So 5 strategic requirements for stronger standard mandate on the impact bridge, how you actually bridging that gap for some of the children that are going through. How do you evidence it? How do you actually diagnose it? How do you monitor it? Require diagnostic accuracy in the assessment. What are non-negotiables in writing accuracy within the primary school? What is inclusion like in practice in the classroom, do you have the test of actually what's the barrier, what's the adaptation, what's the improved work, and then strengthen the governance challenge on self-evaluation. Name the weakest evidence spot. Can you go through this? What is the weakest spot that you need to do? So these are what to stop doing. I say over-reliance on publishing, they're important. I'm not saying they're not, but it's actually what you do about it is the most important thing. Where's the curriculum change? What the things have improved from that? So you need the bridge to saying where the new destination is and how you get into that one. The common theme of this is that work groups need shows engagement but not improvement. It's what's been focused on. Actually, you're doing the work groups need actually what's the improvement in the learning from this? How do you do this? How do you actually put things and actually have the challenging questions for the teaching staff as well? And then you're going, okay, you're doing the assessment, but you're not diagnosing or picking up on any of the misconceptions and acting on them. Inclusion is acted evidence in the system, but not in the classroom. And then the monitoring calendar shows record of activity, but not impact. So all the way through, these are the common themes that's gone from. I'm hoping that through this, I've actually been helped you to be clear on what that actually would be to focus on. So it's a database. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to go onto within the community, and the community had loads of resources on there, and we got down the side here. I go through. We got all these different packs that if you're a member of the community, you can have that. You can have all our old videos that we've done. We've done a few this week. One on self-evaluation, one on maths progress in Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2. You've got all these packs. But the thing I really want to show you is the Ofsted School Leadership iBot. And in here is, it is an AI bot, but what this has done is it's just focused on all the Ofsted reports. So we'd uploaded them to the system and it just trawls through that information, no other information, just the Ofsted reports. And then you can ask any question on this. So you can say, tell me about inclusion in the Ofsted. I'm not sure this is good. I mean, I've done a few things on prompts down here. What makes a good prompt? I'm not doing it right now. Tell me about inclusion in the Ofsted report is not a great prompt. And you can ask anything. So I'm just doing it as a general thing, and it will crawl through all the Ofsted reports and give you an answer. So if there's something in particular you're looking for, come to this and actually ask these questions on this, because actually it has been so useful to so many people already. The other ones, we got a few other chats, and here you go. It's all like inclusion in here. It's going to be quite generic because my prompt was quite generic. It gives you a summary of what's happening in those things. So if you're in the community, use this as much as free for anyone to do. But you got the white paper one, which I'll talk about later. And Ask Charlie is our specialist one. Is sort of like it just has information from our community. And if someone posted a question about how to staff leave or something like that, or anything that comes up in the head teacher chat community, that would be the one that I would go to ask those sort of things. The generic question about leadership. So it might be, is there a policy on PE or sports premium or something like that? So that's more general. So that's generally the databases here. I'm just going to all the reports. Actually, I'm going to stop now and stop sharing this and come to the chat.
Hi everybody, we've had some great questions, Jonathan. The first is Thomas, who has asked a really, really valuable question, and I know it's on a lot of people's minds, and it's all about the evidence. How do we show impact of evidence given the lag in outcomes? And the same for inclusive practice. What counts as classroom level proof?
Well, I mean, I explained some of it within the presentation. It's sort of like, okay, so the first thing is you've got to have diagnostic where they are now. So you've got to find out. So what are you actually looking at? Is it writing in the classroom? So you're going to I use writing as an example because that comes up quite a lot within the reports as saying the weaker area. So you basically get a sample of the writing beforehand, then you do the practice to actually improve it, and you document what you've done in the classroom, how you adapted things, and then you have a bit of writing at the end. That's the clearest evidence way of showing that. Or you could do adaptations in the lesson plannings of what you've done, but that's more of what you've done in the classroom. So the clearest one would be, okay, you've got this misconception, this idea, writing, let's see over time how you improve writing.
Yeah, I think actually you're right. And it's almost like we all do know how to show impact. You know, that's what we're all very good at. And I think sometimes we worry too much that we're not going to get that right. And I think as long as you keep it really simple and manageable, and you have, as Jonathan said, that starting impact information, that starting data. So maybe it's a photograph, maybe it's a photograph with the pupil's voice, the parent voice, the teacher voice, and then it follows on with an assessment, which also shows that information is correct and accurate. And then you follow up in like 3 weeks' time after putting in some sort of intervention. So this would be good for your inclusion information, Thomas. So perhaps you put that intervention in. What's the so what of that intervention? You know, you've put a lot of time and energy and money into that intervention. Is it working, and how do you know? How often are you checking? That's as simple as it needs to be, really. You don't even need to have a fancy bit of technology always to show that, but technology does help. But as long as you're showing impact from the beginning to the end of whatever it is that you're doing for that child, and you know that it's working, then that's all that matters, really, I think. Don't you?
I think that's something that is basically, what is the misconception? What are you doing about it? How is it impacted in the classroom? And show that journey. So it can be less technical than quite simple to set up, but that generally is. And I'm just reading the question. Find evidence for 1 or 2 children until 1 or 2. I think it's more on Thomas's question. It's more to sort of like, I don't think it's the bigger picture is actually we've got to find the misconceptions if there are of the children, and then what have we done about those misconceptions. That's the key thing of where the issues are. So that diagnostic, do we know where the children are? And I think that's where sometimes we become missing in this, and reading the reports is actually what I get is that some of the schools don't know where the children are, or they know the struggle but don't know what to do about it. And then so that then is where it comes in the problem of showing the impact, because actually there's not really identified what the plan is and how to act on it. I'm talking generally because this could be a whole range of different things or misconceptions in different subjects. It's actually focusing the teaching on what they need to do.
It's about using what you've got as well as you can, because every school has different resources, different staffing, different issues going on, and it's about proving that you've tried everything you can within the resources and the time that you have to help support your children in your school. And as long as you can show that in a simpler way as possible, that doesn't add tons to your workload, then that would be, I feel, suitable for Ofsted to see. That's what I'm picking up on the Ofsted reports. You might see it differently, but that's what I think, because every school has different struggles, and Ofsted are looking now more into your context, and so therefore they should consider that. But it is about, not letting any child drift. We know these children need to have this information to help them. We know these children have these barriers to the learning. What are we doing about closing those barriers? Are we helping them? How do we know we're helping them? Who's checking? How often are we checking? They're the sort of questions you need to ask yourselves as a team. Like, have we missed someone? What about that quiet child that never said anything? How are they finding school? How are they finding their learning? What do the parents think? It's all of that information which you guys are really good at collecting. You are good at this. I think sometimes we all worry too much. Well, it's easy to worry too much. But remember how good you are. Remember how passionate you are about teaching those children and helping them to get from A to B. Focus on that.
Good point. Very good point on how that is. Any other questions in there?
We've had a few technical issues, but I think that's because we've had a really bad storm. So apologies, everybody, for the technical issues. I don't know if you guys were affected by the storm, but we had a huge storm last night, and we had a few delays of people getting in. So thank you for your patience, everyone. Apologies for the issues caused by that. So it's 11 o'clock, and shall we have a little break, and then we'll come back at 15:15 for session 2.
I think I've got enough to 10 past. Go and get a cup of tea and coffee.
Yeah, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Yeah, cool. Thanks, everyone.
Welcome to Ready to Lead.
Leadership can be a very, very lonely journey. And this is why it's so important to be in the right space with the right people in order for you to have the right information to make the life of leadership a lot easier. Together, we are stronger. So there's no way that you can feel alone and being at school.
As a leader, you have to think, what did I bring to that situation? What could I change in order to arrive there again? Be self-aware enough to know that sometimes we don't always arrive in a good frame of mind or with a good decision-making head on.
I truly believe in the head teacher chat. I've been able to work with many people over the many years. And I know this is the space that's going to give you what you need to take your leadership game to another level.
So what is the school leader community?
The School Leader Community Platform connects you directly with other leaders out there, heads, deputies, senior leaders. Whatever your role in leadership is, you're all very welcome. The idea is that it's a space which is trusted and safe. You can chat with people who understand your challenges. You can share experiences and build that really strong professional network around you. So the School Leader Community gives you access to all of our downloadable checklists, our policy, our improvement plans, our leadership guide. They're all created by us, experienced school leaders, and they are trusted by you. It's not theory, it's what you use every single day. It will save you hours and hours and hours, help you improve outcomes, and make a big impact on children and young families in your school.
It's a great platform, very useful and informative. I'm seeking my first headship, and I know this site will support me with that.
So we get it. We understand it. We've been in most roles within the school. We've had most situations that happened in schools. So we understand how you feel and the issues that you might be having in school. That's why we set up the platform, so we can then share the knowledge and understanding from other head teachers who've probably gone through the same thing. And we can give you a sort of like a virtual hub to support you through these times. Education is a very, very tough gig, and the fact that you are in this space supporting leaders is amazing. So thank you very much for the loving and amazing support community.
For more support, sign up today by scanning the QR code below.
We just had a quick break, and just to clarify some of the things that we were talking in the first section, and so like I think myself and Lucy.
Sorry, I don't know if you got your sound turned on, have you? Oh yes, you have. Yes, sorry. Carry on. No, it's working. It's working. It's fine. It's just me. It's not.
And just on to clarify on a couple of things for the first thing. You've got to remember your own context. We do not know your own context in your school and what your school needs to work on. We haven't got that information. The only people who's got that information is you. And so in some ways, we're trying to give you a framework to actually work on to support you in that school. So we don't know particular context for that. So you might have reading as an issue that comes up in your assessment data and things like that as a whole school type focus. So then you do whole school training, you diagnose it first, the same what part of reading is the focus, and then you do CPD training to work on those things, you document those things, and then at the end of the day you sort of like you see the improvement in that aspect of reading that you're focusing on. But until we know the context of what you're working on, it's hard to have to give you a pinpoint thing to do, or that could be whole school level. It can be broken down into individual levels, because that's the focus of the inclusion part is have you adapt it to the individual. So you've got to do whole school sort of like group level and individual level to what the needs are of your school. And within the same spectrum of all this, and I'm going through Thomas's question, actually it's the same thing, the same process. Why are we doing this? What are we hoping to improve? How do we show that improvement at the end? Whatever the system is.
Yeah, I agree. And I going back to what we said earlier, and I'm aware we started a bit early. We said we'd start at 10 past, but a bit early. Sorry if you haven't you've only just got your cup of tea. But what we were saying earlier is, do you know your, and if you don't, find out how to know your child. And if you do know children, how do you know? What have you done to show that you know the children? What information have you collected? Have you got assessments? Have you got photographs? Have you got pupil voice? Have you got parent voice, teacher voice? Have you got your book scrutiny information? And then have you recorded that somewhere as like a starting point? And then when do you do your next check? And what does that next check look like? Is it the same information gathered again? I would suggest that would be good practice. And then when are you going to do your follow-up check? How many times are you going to check throughout the year? What does good progress look like for that individual child? So for some children, it might be very small steps to us or to other children, but for that child, it's a huge step. What is good progress? What are you measuring? And how are you going to show that they've done it? That's really all that Ofsted I think, are looking for. I've got lots of notes on the inclusion information in the Ofsted report. And it's all about consistency, measuring over time, not letting any child drift or get lost. Are you transforming their learning? How do you know?
And Thomas, a really good point now. He's saying he cannot do it to every child, and no one's expecting you to do it. But what we're saying is there are some children that will be a focus that will have some misconceptions that are not in the scope of the whole class bit. But then on the whole class aspect, or a whole year group that you're focusing on, what are the main issues for the year group to be focused on? I mean, I picked up writing. Is writing a non-negotiable across the year group? Can you monitor what the progress of writing through that year group, and has the teaching changed or improved to focus on the aspect of what the diagnostics that you're doing?
You're right, and you're right. You can't do it for every child, Thomas. That would be awful. But you know, there are ways to get around that. As Jonathan said, look at the wider groups. You know, you have a team around you who can perhaps look into children more diagnostically, into children who are in a group that are struggling. What are they struggling in? Can you be more effective and group those children together and do an intervention with those children? Look at the wider school and then see where the gaps are across the school and resolve those. That, I think, is your answer to that. But it's tricky.
And then the follow-up is, given the focus from Jonathan earlier, that it's all about the impact, not the stuff that you're doing. There's a long list of stuff doing without clear evidence of impact. Impact of these things are so difficult to measure. Okay, I don't know what those long list of things are, but if you're not doing them to have an impact on the children's learning, then why are we doing them? So that, I mean, it's more of a sort of like, I don't know that long list, so I'm just sort of like saying what we've got to be doing is, and I think my point was that the raised in the Ofsted reports is people are doing lists of things, but are not having any impact on the learning of the children. So you might have a monitoring timetable, people might be monitoring, but there's no impact on what's actually happening with that monitoring within the classroom. And that's at the end of the day is sort of like, what are we doing things for if it's not having an impact in the classroom?
Or
it's just,
why are we not measuring that impact?
And why we're not measuring that impact?
It might be that it's having an impact, but we haven't measured it, so we don't know. And that's what Ofsted is saying. Well, why are you doing it? Because that could be technically wasting time if you are not measuring that impact. So it could be it's having a fantastic impact, but how do you know? And it might be you have a very small amount of evidence. It might be a conversation you've had with a parent or 2 or 3 parents and a few children, and that's your impact information. It doesn't have to be reams and reams and reams of stuff. It just needs to be enough to justify, I'm a leader, I've got these things going on in my school, I know these things are working because I've checked. That's what you need to demonstrate. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming impact information. It just needs to be enough to make you think, yeah, actually, I feel confident that's working.
I hope that clears things up for you, Thomas. I'm going to put the crack on and go through the white paper. Really interesting, sort of like talking about this, because this all links together and everything sort of like at the moment. It's the white paper does link in with what's happening with Ofsted. So I will explain more as I go through. So this came out a couple of weeks ago, and the 23rd of February, and basically it's not in place yet, but it's what the plan for the direction of travel to give you an understanding of where we're going in the next couple of years. So it's not a standard document. It's a target for readiness. It's for us to be aware of what's going on into it, especially around readiness for school, reading, attendance, belonging, inclusion. And it's just where it's all come from. So 90% of year 1 phonics passed grade. So is that good enough? And so we're trying to improve that readiness for school and improve the phonics. 6,500 new teachers into expert teachers coming in. Attendance needs to be rising to 94%. It's sort of like 20 million more school days in a school year, so for children. And so, and there's
Sorry,
a load
John.
of things that's happening. Sorry.
I don't think the slides are shifting. Sorry.
Oh, I haven't shifted. I haven't changed it yet.
Fair enough.
Okay. So I go on to it. So there's a lot going on with it. I changed the slide now. So here we go. So the whole system reform, basically what this is. It's looking at curriculum, inclusion, attendance, workforce, accountability, and basically it's high standards and inclusion are now inseparable within this. It's sort of like you're basically planning for a broader curriculum, a stronger attendance expectation, better family engagement, a redesign of the SEN system, and we're meant to work together. It's not a separate policy book. And the white paper is not just for education, it's for all the children's services that are involved in it. So it's not just an education paper, school paper. It also links into everyone else that is involved in school. And it's basically, the idea of me talking about it is actually to start building capacities to work towards what the changes are going to come into place. So, and there are some things already in place. So you've got the inspection framework, which we talked about earlier. You've got the guidance that is coming all through and everything. Keeping children safely is changing for 2026. You've got working together to safeguard children that came out the other day. And actually there's changes in here that link to it. So there's a big drive for improvement and changes. So there's a lot going on in education. We've got the curriculum reform that's coming soon as well. So there's a lot of change that's happened in education at the moment. And this sets the direction of where we are going with it. So it's more about changing the shift of what we're doing to be in line with what's happening with this. And as I say, it's new. We got the Best Start family hubs, the mental health support team, strengthening this safeguarding partnerships within local children's services. And schools are meant to be an active partner with all those. And it's not just the recipient of referrals in the area where the services are thin, naming honesty within your board. Okay, so we need to just make sure we're up to date with the current policies, what's going on, and then just start talking to governors, SLT staff about what's going on and the changes that will happen in the future and how that changes. As I said, this PowerPoint can be used in your school. You can use it with your school team. You can use it with the SLT. You can use it with your governors as well. So you can use this bit. You can take the slides out and help you. It's there for you to use. So moving on. What do you mean in different sections? So the primary leaders, it's really strengthening that early literacy. We talked about it in the Ofsted report already. Literacy coming out as a weaker bit. Actually, we now need to really focus on that early literacy. The reception transition, it's always been a bit of a sort of like going to reception from nursery to year one. How do we do that transition? How do we make it smoother and more effective for learning? Breakfast club readiness and etc. That's been rolling out. The family partnership, and then we're talking about adaptive teaching. We're talking about it a lot in the last hour. Actually, how do we improve the adaptive teaching within the school? So it really is a focus on the foundations and build it early and build it robustly. Secondary leaders, it's basically redesign that key stage 3. We've really got to tighten that attendance and behaviour systems within schools, improve the transitions. It comes up in the Ofsted reports already. Actually, transition is when I think it's all linked in with everything that's going on. Prepare for the inclusion basis. So again, what's the plan for the inclusion basis within the secondary school? Strengthening the reading, career and work experience. So the year of reading now, actually, how do we strengthen the reading in secondary school? Special and alternative provision leaders, okay, it remains essential to the whole plan, but build a stronger outreach, short-term placements, and a system leadership role that can support other schools as well. But then you've got to trust that leaders, sharper accountability around inclusion, standard, local governance, and parents and voices as well. So there's all those, what it means to each one of those sections and how it actually does. It does mention about academy conversion at some point, but there's no time frame on that. So I'm not sure if it's really going to, normally on the other wing, there's a time frame when things are going to happen, but there's no time frame on it. So I'm leaving that out of this conversation at the moment, because actually there's not a fixed time that we have to do that by. So 10 things that every school leader should do. A broader, more inclusive, more engaging curriculums for all children. So you've got the breadth, you've got inclusion, you've got the attendance to improve, the curriculum engaging, the attendance will be improved, the behaviour will be improved, and the family partnership will improve. So if your curriculum is too narrow and too thin, then actually you might not dealing with everything in there. We know as school leaders that curriculum is a whole big thing for school. You've got to get the curriculum right. You've got to be engaging. It's got to be inclusive. And so we've got all these things to do. So that's the first thing. That's the priority. So you remember the early years have got 90% pass rate in year one, 75% school readiness targets. So the foundation stage absolutely matters. And I totally agree with that, because I was a foundation stage teacher for a while, and I fully believe that actually if you get it right in the foundation stage, it helps build a strong education afterwards. Curriculum reform is real, it's not immediate. There's going to be new programs of study from 2028, GCSE changes from 2029. So don't rush to curriculum rewrite based on the rumours. We've done that in the past. Don't do that. It didn't work in the past. Actually, when they come in, build the changes for that. But you can generally get the breadth, building the breadth of the curriculum, building the reading, building the writing, building the oracy, building the enrichment. Those are all things we can focus on, because actually they are important. Attendance is a central policy, and essentially for the improvement. If children are in school more, they will learn more. And so there's a whole big focus on getting attendance. And it doesn't stop at just the pastoral side, it actually is a whole leadership implication as well. So the broad level improvement and metric tied to engagement and actually building up the standards. The SEND reform is the biggest structural shift that what's going on. We all know what's going on. Digital individual support plans, experts at hand, national inclusion standards by 2020, specialist provision packages underpinning the future HCP, I'll get my tongue twisted then. And the main element is the consultation legislation. It's still going on. So there's a lot of consultation, a lot of code revisions that are going on within that. And mainstream inclusion is a core leadership focus. If you know from the Ofsted Framework, inclusion is a much bigger focus. This is not, it's actually focused on it now. So there is a proposal, and I'll talk about a little bit further on, of an annual inclusion strategy duty. It won't be statutory, it's not yet statutory. It might become that, but in some ways it's a direction of travel that I think that schools need to really start addressing. What is your inclusion strategy duty now? And actually, how do you actually put that into place? And so it's building that structure now for the future. So that's the first 5. So the next 5, and it doesn't go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It just goes back to another one. So just my tech issues that I couldn't actually solve this morning. So changing this. Okay, so inclusion bases are coming to all to secondary school. What does that look like? There's so many questions that are actually in place for that. How does it actually work, and what actually? There's a lot of questions within that, but actually, it's the white paper sets out the time. So actually, it's not inclusion bases are coming. They are coming. Actually, let's look at what we need to do for the future. So start, if you are a secondary school listening to this, actually, or an academy trust that has secondary schools, and start the discussion now of actually how to put these things in place. So what are the key metrics of timing of when things are going to be in place? What can we do now? Can we actually start the ball rolling? It's more about not the building, it's more about staffing, timetable, expertise. How do we build this? Because it is still coming, but we just need to really focus on some of those things now. So it's a conversation having with the board. Actually, this could be coming in place in this time. Let's get ahead of the game. What can we put in place now? Can we put a team together to really focus on it, to make sure we hit the ground running with it? Because actually it would make big improvements what's going on. The HCPs are narrowing scope, but they're not disappearing. So they're still in place till 2030. So it's actually it's still in consultation. So the process is still there. So we're not really quite sure, but they are in place to 2030, and then it's just a messaging with parents and staff and what's going to go with that. They're going to narrow in scope rather than disappear, and actually it's the communication now with the parents of children with EHCP plans, and actually how we actually manage that, and actually how we get the full package of specialist support in place. And the workforce is integral to the whole reform. So 6,500 new expert teachers are planned. So SEN training, possible SENCO qualification reform, improvement in maternity pay. There's a lot going on there. So distributing these SEN competencies across all staff rather than one person. So it's not relying on one or two key people. So there's a lot of change in the workforce that happened. Really good ones. I mean, especially about the maternity pay from 2027 to 2027, 28. Brilliant that actually things like that are going to be in place. So there's a lot going on with that as well, which is all good. Trust face stronger scrutiny. So there's going to be trust standards and trust inspection, local governance consultations, annual parent forum. And so that it's not just about attainment. Actually, the accountability of trust is now going to be center stage of what's going on. So what's happening with the trust, how are they improving, and things like that. So there's still a lot to be unresolved. There's the SEN's consultation doesn't end till the 18th of May. Disadvantage funding consultation 2026 summer. A revise of the SEN code of practice to follow. So in some ways, there's a lot going on. They're not the fine detail, but you get the scope of what's going on. So in some ways, it's plan with the clear signals of what's going on, avoiding investing in detail. The one thing I would learn from this, from being in school leadership for many, many years and many curriculum reviews, actually hold back rather than sort of like really jump in until you get the final detail of what's going on. Always just be cautious with the thing, because in the past I've been led curriculum designs and redesigns when we thought this curriculum was coming in. So Jim Rose's wonderful curriculum, that was we put it in place and everything like that, and then the government changed and we completely changed it, and it was a waste of a year of curriculum development. So I don't want anyone to do that same mistake again of doing this and actually putting things in place which might not happen. If it's certain to happen, then start to plan for it, like the inclusion basis. It is coming. So let's start to put the plan in place of what we can do to support that. So what do leaders need to do now? And it's sort of like, I've given a sort of like outline of a couple of priorities of what we can do. And it all links in. So this whole thing of white paper and the Ofsted, actually when writing this all, it's all intertwined with each other. So like gap analysis, it's sort of like, what are your priorities at this moment for the school? So is your curriculum broad enough? Is your attendance good enough? Is your inclusion good enough? Then actually, what is your gap to actually building on it? So actually, what needs to be done is probably now, isn't it? Because some of those things are quite crucial to getting things up and running. Looking at your curriculum and think, curriculum for next September, can you make it broader on what's going on? The second part is what we've been talking about throughout this sessions and last session, is audit your inclusion. Sort of like, what is your Ascend support? Is it evidence-led? Is it visible in the classroom? So we're going through that link again. Is the adaptive teaching in the classroom as well as in the interventions, what's happening? So it should be led from the Senko and head teacher. And actually, a good plan would be they're trying to broaden the Senko role, so include someone else in that one to support the Senko within it. Attendance and behaviour. Okay, so we still got a national issue of attendance and behaviour. So it's less on the reactive, more on the who are your top 20 persistently absent children. Okay, is there something we can do with them? Gap analysis of what's going on with those, and actually how do we improve that to support them to come in school. My stutter's coming in place now. And so design the support rather than reactive to actually develop things over the future. So have a clear attendance and behaviour strategy, what's going on. Brief governors and trustees early and clearly. Be very clear on what the message is, and it's basically what's in force now, what's the expected direction, what's awaiting consultation. And actually, we talked about it earlier, the board must start challenging appropriately of what your choices are and what the impact of those things and what change will happen and how will it improve things. And then again, it's preparing your staff about the classroom practice. So we've got a whole big focus on inclusion and the adaptive things. So how do we do this? How do we train people for better adaptive teaching, clearer identification, calmer routines? It's not about the paperwork, it's about actually how do we support the staff and the teachers to actually deliver in the classroom. So, and it says at the bottom, it's very clear all the way through this, frame the reform as better teaching and stronger system for schools. And then going on, so draft an inclusion strategy. It will be coming in place soon. So sort of next year to start thinking, what is our inclusion strategy? What do we need to do? How do we improve that? What does it look like? How do we change things from that? The transition work as well. I mean, the key one is Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3 transition. Is actually how do we make that as effective as possible so they don't have a lag in their learning, which is then they're trying to bridge over with what's going on. How do we secure the data sharing, the sense of belonging within the school and things like that? So it's a smooth transition as possible. And then looking at curriculum design is we've got the changes on the curriculum. It's not changing, put everything out and changing everything, as I was saying earlier, but actually start to focus where your gaps in your curriculum is. Is the enrichment good enough? Is it, how do we improve that? I mean, I mentioned here, is Ascend adaptation over-reliant with withdrawal rather than classroom design? So it's the whole range of this is actually, this links in with the Ofsted. Is it's sort of like the Ofsted reports that I've analysed is actually, how do we improve the teaching for adapted learning? And then it's, again, the CPD, workforce development is actually CPD for schools. Actually, what training are we putting in place for schools? How are we teaching staff about the adaptive learning and literacy across the curriculum? If this is primary, is the writing part is thing, how do we develop that across the curriculum so we can actually have those core skills that so it's a plan for the future, is actually we're going in the right direction. There's nothing in here that would be a shock for someone to be a school leader of things to have to work on. The inclusion strategy, actually, that's basically what we're having to do anyway, is what is our inclusion strategy for our school? So there's a lot going on, but actually it all is and should be within your school development plan and ideas of actually approaching these aspects. They all should be in the school development plan. And it's for trust, these are all separate sections, and actually what they're trying to do is align all the school improvement and inclusion strategy to one coherent framework, so it all links in together. And so everything is there. So Descend is not on this side and the Attender is not. It's all one big picture that we're trying to sort of like be more cohesive together. And so here's the sort of like the next 3 years sort of strategy of what's going on. An inclusive mainstream focus, and then 2028 the planning a state to having the inclusion basis, and then you've got the special and AP leader dual role. You've got that in 26 to 29. So there's a lot going on, and so on ongoing the governance readiness to sharper scrutiny of trust inspection, trust standards, school profile. So that's the next 3 years strategy. Hopefully that's it. So going on from that, it's sort of like I mean, is there any questions or anything at this moment of what's going on? I'm just checking to see if there's any questions or anything before I move on to the next bit.
I was just working on a Key Stage 2 to Key Stage 3 and a Key Stage 1 to Key Stage 2 checklist, and I'll be uploading that to the community, hopefully maybe even this afternoon if I get it finished. And I'm using my experience as an inclusion lead and SEMCO as well as school leader to create it. So if anybody wants one, it's been requested in the community yesterday, so I am currently working on it, and I'll put that later. No questions apart from that, but if you do have questions, please do let us know. Happy to help.
I'm just going to show this actually because it links in with what we're sort of talking about here. There is a white paper draft, so it's only got a white paper, so you can ask anything of what's happening during the same here. There's some questions. Here's one: what are the experts in hand? What does it mean? So you can go into that. It just has the white paper in it, no other information in that. And it will go through that and say what it means. So if you have any queries on it, just come to here, put a question in, and then it will help you, support you what you need to do. And it really be particular in your prompt, because actually it's designed to, the better the prompt that you put into it and put more of your context and what you want, you actually get a better answer. This is generally will be a very generalistic answer to what's going on. But there you go, you can have everything, and it's just taken from the white paper. and there are a few questions here that it can ask at the bottom, so you might ask anyway. So that's there, designed to support you with what you're doing. So many people are using this at the moment, so please go on there. It's there for you to really support you with what questions you have. Okay, so I'm going back to, so the plan is to have a broader, more ambitious and more adaptable. So the adaptable one, curriculum in place for schools. And actually the curriculum refresh begins in 2028, GCSE changes 2029, progress 8 will be improved alongside the year 8 reading assessment. So there's a lot going on within that, especially in Key Stage 3 curriculum. In some ways, it's been aware of this and actually start to plan to things already. So, okay, so you've got the year 8 reading assessment. So what are we doing in year 7 to really look into reading, how to support people with reading? That transition then comes into play then, doesn't it? So if we're thinking ahead, your year 6 transition to year 7, actually, what is that journey of reading in your school? So there's a lot in there. So review the leadership, the curriculum breadth, and protect the Key Stage 3 from being squeezed, strengthen reading, writing across the secondary subject, ensure subject leaders can describe how their curriculum is adapted without lowering ambition, and really audit that enrichment, the arts, the music, the PE, the oracy within your. So those will be what I will be focusing on in that way. So moving on to the next bit. So I mean, here we've got quite a lot of what's going on. The SEND and inclusion, we know that Ofsted are really a big focus on inclusion, inspecting it. And that is now, this is right now. Just I like read all the reports and you can see the inclusion is the focus. And it was in a focus in the previous inspection as well. There's no surprise at what's going on. What is proposed is a consultation to improve the ISPs, the inclusion strategies, the specialist provisions in schools, the EHCP reform. This is direction of travel. We've got the dates of what's going to happen, and so that is what we need to be focused on. So the implication for now is I'll start drafting what your inclusion provision is, audit your universal offer to the whole school, building the parent co-production, and do these now because actually they're good practice and a good leadership of what we do, and they are part of the current legal requirement. And it's so one question I would like to leave with you is so like with this thing, what is your universal inclusive offer, and how could you evidence that today? We're talking about evidence earlier within the Ofsted. I told you this is all linked in. The whole thing is all linked in together. So how would you evidence your inclusive offer, your universal inclusive offer? And it gives you a good thinking, actually, what does that look like? So it's more of a question to challenge you and say, what are you putting in place for this? And what are you putting in place now? And being aware of it. So you know that the EHCP is not going to change till before September 2030. So you know you need to be careful on the timelines, but you've got the general direction of travel, what's going on. So just get that inclusive offer, universal inclusive offer finalized or clearer now, and how you're going to evidence it. Attendance behaviour is sort of like a big theme in audit. Everything we're doing is a clear focus within the Ofsted. It's happening now, as I keep saying. So it's then we're talking about that less reactive, more supportive for schools. So of course, we can get the attendance better, then children are in school more, and then their learning improves. So actually, have we got a data-led identification, especially around that transition part of year 6 to year 7? Because this is the highest risk point within our education system at the moment. Year 6 to year 7, they have good attendance in year 6, and when it comes to year 7, they have their attendance dips. So how do we actually manage that? Do we have personalized improvement targets for our school, and how are we actually going to improve it? And what is the impact of what we're doing and how we're developing it? Can we show the evidence of what the impact of what we're doing? The RIDE attendance and behaviour hubs have really supportive in what this is, and I've heard from colleagues that actually they're really, really good. So use those hubs as a mechanism to support you. We met a brilliant school up in Halifax, and how the head and the deputy have really improved their strategy of attendance and relentless focus on attendance every single day. Even when we met them, they're sort of like they were out at school. The deputy was on her phone, sort of like, you know, who's not in school today, who's not, and point of really consistent on her approach and how she's actually doing that. Analyze absence, who's missing, when, why, designing that response, and actually really being supportive rather than reactive. So it's not just the pastoral side now. It's basically the whole thing this is a board level improvement metric tied to the whole school. We've got to deal with this and actually really have a clear plan of how we're going to improve the attendance in our schools. So it's less reactive and actually more supportive to what's going on. I'm aware of time. I'm sort of like coming up to 10 to 12. So I will do the workload very quickly. I talked about quite a few of these things. So I mean, the question I would say about the workload is actually CPD and sort of like support. And I talked to a lot of head teachers, a lot of professionals and SEND professionals. Actually, one question I would actually ask you, because this whole change is all about inclusion. What is our baseline SEND competence for our teaching staff? What is the basic? What should they be doing in the classroom? How do we raise that to what you want it to be? And so, and how do we look at the workload to remove stuff that's not adding value, or not having an impact in that classroom? And actually, you've got to really focus in what having an impact, what interventions is supportive, and what is actually helping the children. So there's a lot within this reform of things, how to upskill the staff but not add to their workload. And then you've got the accountability. And then my question from this would be, are governments seeing the right data on inclusion, attendance and exclusions? Are the board's reports still dominated by the headline attainments? What data are they actually seeing, and how are they actually questioning those data? I mean, the question they should be asking, what is the persistent absence rate for SEND pupils? Does our curriculum offer the breadth expected for our school? Are we building the workforce capacity for this inclusion model? And those are sort of questions that governors should be asking us from this white paper. and then actually how we work through that. I'm aware of time, so I'm nearly getting to, I talked about this as pastoral and safeguarding sits in the side of school improvement, and actually it has to, we do need to really get that linked together. So briefing the staff. Sometimes this is where a reform actually fell. The staff here, okay, systematic change, more paperwork, consultation. Actually, what we've got to really frame this as, this isn't more work, it's doing the right work better. And actually, there's nothing in the white paper that should add to more work. It's actually really fine-tuning what we're doing and making sure that we're doing the right step for inclusion. And inclusion is everyone's responsibility, and we really must do that. I mean, the Ofsted report say this, it's not just a Senko, so we've got to build that capacity of how we're teaching and inclusion and adaptive teaching across the school. I'm hoping, I mean, I say this now, it's sort of like I'm hoping we don't add to the paperwork what's going on. What adaptive teaching looks like in each subject and how it actually works, how will people be supported on it? And actually, we've got to be ready for this. How are we going to support people through adaptive teaching? So for governors and trustees, inclusion is now a core strategic accountability issue within school. It's in the Ofsted report. We need to really focus on that within our governors and get them trained up and actually what they're talking about on that. So, and then your parents, we're preparing for the significant reform of this generation. Actually, absolutely. And so like, how are we making our mainstream schools better for every child, especially those with additional needs? So just really focusing on what the language we're using. It's not systematic change. It's actually, we've got to see if we can progress it into a better education system. I'm going to sort of leave it to there now. So if there's any questions, we've got 5 minutes remaining. And if anyone's got any questions or anything like that, please ask. I'm hoping this has all been useful today. So like, I was fascinated working through the Ofsted reports and so like finding out the difference in different settings of what's going on. And actually, the link with the white paper was quite clear on that inclusion and that development and that journey of travel that we're going to go through in the next couple of years. So I'm hoping that's really useful. As I say, the PowerPoints that I've used will be in the community sheet. Download the video of this, and the last section will be there for you to download and browse in your leisure to share with your SLT. And if there's any help we can do to support any school leaders on staff meetings or anything that we can help you with, we're creating resources to make things easier. We want to get the message across to support you as school leaders and help you as school leaders. Emily, and I get your point. How do we do this with all diminishing funds and therefore workforce? I'm not sure I'm the person who can answer that question, and I don't want to really dismiss it in any sort of way. Yeah, the money, there isn't any more money in the system. How do we do this with diminishing funds? And I think the approach from the government, and we're not, how do I say, we don't work for the government or anything like that. We're trying to support the head teachers and what we're doing, and we're trying to do it as with the understanding of actually we've got this diminishing funds and we've got diminishing time. We hear this all the time about the community, from our community, that actually it isn't. It's just, how do we do this with the best fit of what we've got with our school resources? And it's trying to manage this whole change with what we got. And that's hard. And as we were saying earlier, we don't know every context of every school or how things are working within trust, or every school is different and we don't know the challenges of your school. But we're trying to help you, support you to have a clear focus on what we could possibly work on. So within this white paper, they're saying, okay, an inclusion plan of how to support schools doing that. And so if you imagine you're in a small setting, you have the SENCO, you might have someone supporting the SENCO in that small setting. Maybe it's the head teacher. I mean, I was head teacher and SENCO in my school, and really then supporting the staff on how they do the adaptive teaching. So that's how we're not trying to say, oh, you got this magic pill that's going to come in and sort everything out, or the silver bullet, that's it. Actually, what can we do now? We can train our staff up to what they need to know about these things, really focus on that inclusion, especially with the Ofsted, and how we adapt teaching to support all the children. I mean, I'm not sure if you got anything else to add to that, Lucy.
All I would say is just, I mean, I completely get it, Emily. I mean, we understand that 100%, having been leaders ourselves for too many years. But all I would say is just try and keep things really simple. You can only do what you can only do. Focus on one thing at a time, but just make sure everything you're doing is worth doing. Delegate as much as you can, and just look after yourself, that we can get through this. And we are here together. This is the whole point of the committee. We're here to help each other. I bet there's a few of you listening to this now who's like, yes, I've done that, and it's worked really well at school. If that's you, please do share that information. We love to hear it. This is exactly what the community is about. It's about sharing stuff, helping each other. Let's get through this together, because that's what we all need to do. So, and Jonathan and I love to help you facilitate chats. So, if there's anything you want to share that's worked, maybe you've been through an Ofsted already, and they liked what they saw, so please do share that information. That really does help. I don't mind doing an informal chat with anybody. If we want to get a group, if anybody's listening and you want to have about inclusion, I did one just about a month ago. I was an inclusion lead in SENCO for 14 years. So I don't mind having a chat with anybody who wants to join me. If you send me a direct message in the community, or you can email me at info@headteacherchat.com. I will set up a group call where we can all go through. You can ask questions. We'll all talk together. It'll be very informal. Bring a cup of tea. I always do. Here's mine. And just share what's going on. Obviously, it will be very confidential. Just let's all help each other. That's what we're all about. If you've got questions about inclusion, I can't promise the answers, but I'll definitely be a good listening ear, and we'll be able to help each other to solve some issues together. So if you're interested, drop me an email, info@headteacherchat.com, or send me a direct message in the community, and we'll set up a date that we can all meet, and we'll go through some things together. And Jonathan, I'm saying for like an Ofsted approach style chat. So if you want to do the same, just send us an email to the same place, info@headteacherchat.com, or direct message Jonathan. And if you're not a member of the community, don't panic. You can still email us, and we'll try and include you too. So it's all about helping each other. That's what we're here to do.
Yeah, and Kath said we will email, if you're not part of the community, we will email you the PowerPoints and all the information from there as well. So I'm hoping that was useful. And if there is any other questions, just get in contact. I mean, the one thing I would take from this is look at your systems at the moment and actually, what are you using that's not having an impact? And then reduce that and actually change the systems that you've got in place and review some of the systems. We all know that there's some systems that we're doing in school that we don't need to be doing. Actually change it, improve it, rather than adding to the workload.
And don't worry, we do know how difficult that journey is as well. Both John and I have both been in situations where we've had to remove something that isn't working, how challenging and upsetting that can be, how difficult that is. But that is essentially what Ofsted are saying. What we're getting from all the reports that are coming through, Ofsted are saying everything you do has to have an impact, basically. I believe. Is that right? Is that what you're thinking, Jonathan?
That's my understanding. Understanding. Or you've got to evidence the impact it's making.
Yeah.
Or you can see it in the classroom. Okay, you're doing some big focus on writing. Okay, you can see the improvements in the classroom there and then.
Yeah. And again, if you need another chat about that, we could have another coffee and chat to talk about how to remove something that isn't working in your school with that and keep your sanity at the same time, because that's a challenge in itself. So but yes, do get in touch. Jonathan and I are always here to help you. We do read all of your messages. It takes us a long time. We have 900 messages in Facebook alone every single month. If we don't get back to you straight away, bear with us, we will do. We always read all your messages and we do reply. So thank you so much to everybody, and thank you for all you do. You guys are amazing. Don't forget that. You are working so hard and we know it and we recognize it. A big thank you from us to you for looking after our school community so beautifully and so well. You guys deserve to do well. You will do well. Just do one thing at a time and go easy on yourselves, yeah?
Well, thank you everyone for listening, and don't forget, if you're in the Birmingham area on the 21st of April, come and join us at our conference. We're nearly sold out, so we've got a great day lined up for that. So do come and see us, come say hello, and sort of like got some inspirational speakers. I'm really looking forward to the day myself. So take care and have a good Easter break.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Bye.